Telugu. But Telangana is different. This is what we established in the first topic itself. And now, in between, means we are exactly almost in the middle of the Telangana formation paper, and we are talking about the quest for the identity. Why this quest? If you remember correctly, Telangana's identity is thoroughly separate. But 52 to 56 events finally led to the merger into Andhra Pradesh. That is, Telangana lost its political and geographical identity with the formation of Andhra Pradesh in 1956. 56 to 69 period, though we did not lose our identity, we lost our independence. We lost our resources. We lost the rights to the new ruling class, that is Andhra ruling class. So, by 69, there was a fight again. So, 56 to 69, a separate period. But after 69, if you see 69 entire period, we have to count as the year of agitation. Because almost for 8 months in that year, in 69, the agitation was there. If you want to culminate 69 movement, starting from the agitation beginning in January, that is Rabindranath's hunger strike, till the construction of Martyrs Memorial in 69 February, you can take as one period. So, after this period, there was a conscious effort to, from rulers' angle, from Andhra rulers' angle, it is integration. But from Telangana angle, it is colonization. Telangana was colonized very intelligently from 73 onwards. We have discussed threadbare many aspects like World Telugu Conference or Ma Telugu Taliki Malepudanda, or like that many aspects are physically colonizing by colonies, by industrial entrepreneurs occupying the space for the Telangana entrepreneurs. And finally, we could see Telangana is no more a vocal or separate identity. And by 1983, I am summing up the whole aspect. With the entry of N.T. Ramarao and Telugu Desam, the whole scenario is completely changing. After 83 till 90s, you can say, or 89, you can say this period is a very, very bad period where you don't have any movement for Telangana. Only people are left with aspirations. People are having aspirations. Leaders are not there. Some people who were leading the movement in 1969 were there. But the whole period is the period of complete colonization. This colonization is complete by N.T. Ramarao's period. From Jalagam Vengal Rao to N.T. Ramarao, this colonization is thorough. So, if that process is happening like that, then we have to call again, we have to fight, we have to shout out so that we search for our identity. Where the Telangana's identity has been lost in the previous years. So, this quest will be discussed in this class. This period, we are talking about the public awakening and intellectual reaction against discrimination. But today, in the first part, means there are many mass organizations coming in this process. We will be talking about the initial things, means the initial, what we call, it's a small effort. People gathering, discussing about the injustice, discussing about the issues of Telangana. So, this quest for Telangana is starting in this period post 1973, but this is happening continuously after 76, we can see. Like, what is happening in this period? Under this topic, we will be discussing about the intellectual discussions and debates, political and ideological efforts happening in this direction, and the growth of popular unrest against the regional disparities, discrimination or underdevelopment, whatever we call, in Telangana. So, with this means a discussion will leading into dissent. See, everyone will not have the vision that, yeah, we are getting injustice. But the people who are conscious will make the point, will make or shout aloud that this is happening. And in this process, public will get the consciousness. With the consciousness, what will happen? The next round of agitation will begin. That is new formation of mass organizations. to articulate the identity of Telangana separately. So, these are the things we'll be discussing today. First of all, let's talk about the people who were in 1969 but still carrying the torch. They were in the 1969 movement. First, we should talk about 𝗵𝗵 Kishore, who was in the forefront of formation of Telangana Praja Samiti, TPS, a journalist. He was continuously searching for the opportunities to raise the issue of Telangana whenever possible, till latter period too. Even after 80s, we can see him. 90s, we can see him. Till his death, he was with the Telangana movement. And Professor Jaishankar. Of course, Professor Jaishankar is a person who is there with the Telangana movement from 1952 to last phase, till his death. In 1952 movement, he started from Warangal to participate in Hyderabad City College movement and all those things. But his bus failed at 𝗵𝗁𝗏 and he could not reach on time. So otherwise, he would have been a direct participant of 1952 movement, as he said in his biography. He was dictating his biography. He was talking in many of the meetings. In one of the articles he wrote about 1952 movement, and he could not come to 1952 Hyderabad movement because the bus failed at 𝗵𝗁𝗏. So 52 to last 2011. So Professor Jaishankar was there in all the periods and making the intellectual contribution for the movement. His thread is like a garland. In garland, if you can see, there will be a thread. Without the thread, you can't see the garland. He is like the garland in the entire, he is the thread in the entire garland. Professor Jaishankar was, another important quality of Professor Jaishankar is, Professor Jaishankar was ready to make any person, meet any person, or bring any person into Telangana movement without any ideological differentiation. That is why a popular saying of him was, from RSS to RSU, extreme right to extreme left. RSS is Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. RSU, Radical Students Union. From RSS to RSU, I will bring all of them into Telangana movement. I am ready to go and talk to them and bring them. This was his attitude. This was his understanding. This was his philosophy. For Telangana, all our nations should unite and get this geographical identity of Telangana. This was his understanding. So this is another important person. Of course, he is the sole person who carried the torch till the end. And 𝗵𝗵 Krishnamurthy. 𝗵𝗵 Krishnamurthy, popularly known as Telangana Gandhi, was another person who was carrying this torch or the light of Telangana movement, starting from the beginning period till the end, till his death in 2013 or so. And Kaloji Narayan Rao. Very interestingly, Kaloji Narayan Rao was an integrationist, Samaikyandravaadi or Vishalandravadi in the first phase during the merger. But after the merger, he could understand what is happening with the entire politic. This Telangana is completely submerged into the politics of Andhra Pradesh. There is no identity for Telangana. Then Kaloji woke up. He started supporting Telangana in the latter phase. So Kaloji Narayan Rao, till his death, again, he was a staunch supporter of Telangana. And this period, he is the one who is the central figure like Jaishankar. More than Jaishankar, many people admired Kaloji Narayan Rao because of his age and poetic prowess. And he became a center for the next phase of activity on whose name people were gathering in Hyderabad. Though it's a small gathering, we'll talk about it then. Next one, Professor 𝗂𝗽𝗍, another person who was there from 1952 to till his death this year. Professor 𝗂𝗍𝗍 was thoroughly in mind, with the body and mind, he was into Telangana movement. A Paidaishi Hyderabadi. Paidaishi means by birth, and he is a staunch Hyderabadi, he is a local, a Hyderabadi who was for Telangana movement. Professor 𝗂𝗍𝗍. Then Professor Sridhara Swami. He was in forefront in the teachers movement. He was a professor, he was a teacher, then became a professor, and he was active in bringing many documents or books, and he was a participant in Telangana movement in 69 too. So, as a teacher, he was making all his contribution of this period, 1969 movement and later too. So, these are the important names we talked about. Then, if we talk about the entire Telangana movement, you have to divide the entire Telangana movement in different phases. Till 1969, as we have seen, the movement was in some other form. 1952 movement very short-lived and started from a demand, non-mulki go back. Jai Telangana is shouted aloud, but non-mulki go back is the first went out, so that is limiting and a small period 1952 movement. But 69 movement had a great ideological understanding too, because from 56 to 1968 there were efforts to get the rights of Telanganites. Organizations were fighting, like TNGO was fighting for the rights of the employees, but by 69 we could not find any solace, any respite in the exploitation by Andhra ruling class. As a result, in 1969 the whole movement has it burst out, and 69 to by 70 February it calmed down. It went into a setback, but the people are still there with the same consciousness. They are not happy with the setback, and they are not influenced by the tactics of the Andhra ruling class to integrate or to cover up all the wrong deeds of Andhra ruling class. They continued their efforts with new methods of propaganda or public meeting. It is not so big, it's a very small activity, but still they did with the same vigor as they did in 1969. The spirit never died for these people. So they understood the new forms of subjugation during this period. Means post 1973, what are the new forms? More than the physical thing, more than the physical repression, what the Andhra ruling class did was very consciously made the colonization. At the psychological level, with all the culture, means all Telugus are one, is the one which can lead to this type of understanding. Imagine the same thing, because whenever I am talking about all the Telugus are not one. Telangana is different. Many people said, Desha Bhashlandu Telugu Lessa, don't forget that we are Telugus. Then this rule will apply to all Hindi speaking states. Are you ready? If all the Hindi speaking states are getting merged into one state? Need not be. As we have understood what Ambedkar said, a state need not have just, a language need not have just one state. A language can have many states, but a state should have one language. Understand this spirit. So if we understand this spirit, we have to understand that Telugus are different in different areas. And Telangana Telugus or Telangana is a different one. To integrate this aspect or to make this aspect, the separate aspect blur, there were new forms of subjugation. So this subjugation was making people forget about the thing. Very interestingly, though the leaders are some of the people who are conscious enough to understand this subjugation, definitely in Telangana there was a phase where people also could not get the same feeling, pre-1969 feeling for a few years because of the subjugation. Colonial psych or colonized psych or a fake or pseudo psych of we are all Telugus, so we should be in one state. So this is the major aspect of this early phase. Post 1972 till the next phase of movement till 1998, when bigger mass organizations are forming. So 1972 to 1998 means how many years? Almost 20 years. We can see the change in the psychology of the people. So talking about the injustice is very important. When there is no movement, remember this aspect. If the movement is not there, if people are not coming onto the streets or not pouring onto the streets in agitations, in protests, so at least keep the propaganda activity alive, so that if not today, tomorrow the movement will again pick up. That is the spirit, or that is the essence of any intellectual activity. So activists of 1979 were the torchbearers of this movement. Torchbearers, I am calling them as torchbearers, means they are showing the way. They are continuing, they are still fighting against the darkness. That is why I call them as torchbearers. The forms of organization these people have adopted, like you can see, that is small gatherings, group meetings, distribution of pamphlets, are bringing out booklets or magazines. If you see, bringing a pamphlet itself is not a big activity. A pamphlet may not bring complete change, but pamphlet will carry the political message, what you want to talk to the people. This pamphlet will go to thousands of people with the same, strength as any individual will talk about it. Means pamphlet is an organizer. So in that aspect, they are publishing pamphlets on the injustices Telangana is being meted out. So bringing out booklets and pamphlets is very important activity of these people. Why they meet, gather, though it's a small gathering, gathering together will boost the spirits of the few people who are left without the mass agitation. So these are the activities. If you take the names Pratap Kishore, the journalist, Kaloji Narayan Rao, poet, Professor Jayashankar, Professor Tota Anandarao, Professor 𝗬𝗏 Professor Madhusudana Reddy, all these people are teachers in university. Remember, intellectual activity, teachers and students, this community will always be helpful in propagating the issue, always be helpful in understanding the subjugation or exploitation, because the people who are not into intellectual activity may not have the leisure or time to understand the struggle, day-to-day struggle. Each second they have to struggle to live. That is important for them. But the intellectuals can see the things as an academician or a person who is understanding society or a social scientist. And they could see and they could make the theories. They could make the generalizations, and that will be carried by the people in the agitation. This is the dynamics we have to understand. That is why I am talking about so many professors who were teaching in Osmania University and taking the responsibility of consciously organizing the people through their activities. 𝗬𝗏 ex-councillor, he was a consistent campaigner for Telangana from the beginning. So all these people were the important people who laid foundations for the next stage of Telangana movement. I said it is the keeping the light glow, means they are watching that the spirit of Telangana movement of 1969 or the demand for separate Telangana state should not die down. That is why they kept the light glowing by fueling it. What are they fueling? They are fueling the intellectual quotient, intellectual content for Telangana movement. If anyone is asking for you to fight, what the basic question we get is, why should we fight? Means injustice. So injustice should be explained, and these intellectuals did the same thing. So except for a few books which came in 1969, not many books came about the movement. During Jayandra movement of 1973, some organizations, at least we can talk about two organizations. One is Telangana, Sampurna Telangana Praja Samiti, or Vidyarthi Aikya Karyacharana Vedika. Vidyarthi Aikya Karyacharana Vedika means Students Joint Action Committee, Student JAC you can say. So Vidyarthi Aikya Karyacharana Sangham brought some pamphlets. In this class, we will be talking about publications, pamphlets, magazines. But it is not the movement we are talking. But what do we understand with this? Pamphlet made all the aspects which any organizer will do. So bringing out pamphlets is very important. In 1973 and between 1973 and 87, though there is no talk about Telangana, the demand is not in the public domain, it is not a big movement or not even a small movement. At this point of time, one person, that is just now I talked about, that is 𝗬𝗏. Padmanabhan used to bring a magazine known as Flash and Fellow Men. Flash and Fellow Men. At times it is also called as just Flash. So remember this name. In the examination you may be asked. Flash is a magazine published by 𝗬𝗏, an ex-councillor. So in 1969, another book came, that is Telangana Movement. This was brought out by Telangana Teachers Association. 1969, they have brought out a book known as Telangana Movement. Again, Teachers Association means the same people those whose names I have taken just now, like Jaishankar, Anandrao, Sridhar Swami, Tippareddy, Madhusudan Reddy, all these people. And now, when we talk about 1980s, as I said, N.T. Ramarao came to power and N.T. Ramarao became a popular leader because of one notion, that is Telugu pride. Not Telangana pride, not Andhra pride, Telugu pride. When Telugu pride is the agenda, anti-Congressism is in air, and anti-Congress means anti-ruling, because there is no opposition for so many decades. So what will happen? People will be vexed with the government and looking for new alternative. And then N.T. Ramarao came. N.T. Ramarao, as we have discussed about the growth of regional parties in the other topic, we can say clearly, N.T. Ramarao has made the colonization possible very, very cunningly, very, very, consciously, but without we feel the pinch of it. Okay? So, Telugu Desam, as we have discussed in the topic, Telugu Desam party's growth, its genesis has some peculiar characters. A caste, that is Kamma caste, has entered into politics with a bang with N.T. Ramarao. Otherwise, we never had Kamma caste representing the political leadership of Andhra Pradesh. All Reddy dominant things were there. But Kammas getting into politics made from N.T. Ramarao. N.T. Ramarao, as I said, all his schemes were pompous, big names, Telugu, Sanskritized Telugu, it is not even Telugu. Like Varuni Vahini, like Telugu Ganga. See, when you say Telugu Ganga, knowingly or unknowingly, you are getting attached to it, because it is Ganga and Telugu is there. Like that, N.T. Ramarao period was completely colonization intellectually too. So, rise of Telugu Desam has led to one specific thing, like local leadership was brought in by 1983. Many people in Telangana joined TDP because these people, those who are joining TDP, were not having any political say during the erstwhile periods. But here, with the rise of Telugu Desam, locals are rising. At the same time, Telugu Desam has another important or another interesting phenomena, that many non-locals, means non-Telanganites, were getting tickets in Telangana. Because N.T. Ramarao thought that it's my country now, I can rule as I feel. So many non-Telanganites were given tickets. And one such thing is happening in one by-election 1983. In 1983, when N.T. Ramarao got elected and his government is forming, in those elections, in that election, that particular election, a candidate from 𝗂𝗽𝗔𝗃 died of heart attack on the same day when he got the news of his getting elected. So, the vacant seat should be filled by election. In 1983, by-elections to 𝗂𝗽𝗔𝗃 constituency was happening, and Ala Narendra was fighting the battle of ballot box. Then we used to have ballot box, now it is EVMs. So, Narendra was a candidate from BJP in the by-elections at 𝗂𝗽𝗔𝗃. And Telugu Desam, interestingly, as I said just now, Telugu Desam has chosen Parvataneni Upendra, a close, actually he is number 2 in Telugu Desam. Parvataneni Upendra was the organizational brain inside Telugu Desam. So, Parvataneni Upendra was contesting from 𝗂𝗽𝗔𝗃, Narendra and Upendra. So, Telanganites took the side of Narendra and discarded, means they did not vote or favor or campaign for Upendra. Though it is a ruling party, it was defeated in the assembly elections. Narendra won with a clear majority. So, that these things we can understand, the period is completely, they are taking each and every opportunity or a chance to oppose whenever possible. Whenever possible, we will approach the people and say that Telangana is getting injustice, and take the opportunity to make some political platform. This is the thing happening. So, elections became one of the important activity for Telangana activists who are very less in number. So, first activity as a group, they took up and campaigned against Upendra in the constituency. And Upendra lost the elections. It was a success for Telanganites. Then, after this success, people were very, very happy. Happy in the sense, there is something which we could do after a brief period of lull, after a period of setback, after a period of desperation, after a period of inferiority that we lost in 1969. Suddenly, because of the influence we could show in 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 by-elections, Telangana Democratic Front was formed in the same year, TDF, Telangana Democratic Front. And it held a convention in YMCA, Hyderabad, and attended by Bagareddy, MP, a local leader of erstwhile Medak district. Presently it's in Sangareddy district. Bagareddy was the invitee. He was also speaking about the injustice to Telangana. A Congressee, Jahirabad MP basically. So Bagareddy, 𝗂𝗽𝗱𝗁𝗺, a leader, an MLA from Warangal. Then 𝗧𝗦𝗧, a publisher and a Telangana activist. 𝗂𝗍 Padmanabhan, again same thing. All these people attended and participated in this Telangana Democratic Front formation. Another political party started in 1984 was Telangana Party by Devananda Swamy of Warangal. So this Devananda Swamy's Telangana Party, though it is not so popular, it is to be mentioned because Telangana Party is a political party getting formed in the period of silence. So Telangana Party of Devananda Swamy, a resident of Warangal, starting the party in Warangal, is important in this period. So, in the first part, we have seen the initial efforts of some of the people who were trying to make or raise the consciousness of the people through the pamphlets and small meetings. In that process, we could see a change, means gradually the polarization towards the demand for Telangana is beginning. It not yet formed, still it is in the initial stages. So, in this process, after Telangana Democratic Front and Telangana Party, we have to talk about Telangana Janasabha. Telangana Janasabha was founded by 𝗧𝗦𝗧. He was the publisher of a magazine known as State Advisor. State Advisor was talking about the injustice to Telangana. It was a magazine, not a big magazine. See, we have seen in different periods, though the big papers, newspapers or magazines are not in favor of Telangana. As we have discussed earlier, by 1966, Golconda Patrika was stopped. So the mainstream newspapers or big newspapers are not in favor of Telangana. Who carried the torch or light of Telangana? It is the small papers. Like 1969 movement, we should remember, it can be asked in your examination. One paper which is known as periodical, published from Warangal, Janadharma, and now State Advisor, or Flash and Fellow Men. These papers or magazines do not have a huge circulation, but still their voice is regarded. Their voice is seen, not like the papers or mostly widely circulated papers which are against Telangana. So, this State Advisor publisher, 𝗧𝗦𝗧, has founded an organization known as Telangana Janasabha. And these same people who organized, means this Telangana Janasabha people, organized a meeting in 1984 on 27th February in Andhra Saraswati Parishad Hall. Remember this Andhra Saraswati Parishad Hall, the literary organization is Andhra Saraswati Parishad. And in Bogulakunta in Hyderabad, there is this Andhra Saraswati Parishad Hall. This is a place for the gathering of literary personalities or mass meetings or political meetings. Now, because of the change of space, there is a lot of difference. No big meetings are happening in Andhra Saraswati Parishad Hall. But now, but then this SP Hall we used to call Saraswati Parishad Hall, Andhra Saraswati Parishad Hall, was a place of gathering. Now, another important aspect I am talking about after this 2014, the name of this Andhra Saraswat Parishad Hall or Andhra Saraswat Parishad is changed to Telangana Saraswat Parishad. And before his death, Dr. C. Narayan Reddy was the president or chairman of this Telangana Saraswat Parishad. So this Andhra Saraswat Parishad Hall, the meeting held, and the meeting was organized by Telangana Janasabha, in which Vande Mataram Ramachandra Rao presided this meeting. We are talking about a person who is from Arya Samaj, because we will be talking about the contribution of Arya Samaj in different periods of time for Telangana quest also. So, Vande Mataram Ramachandra Rao, if we recollect about his credibility or his understanding, Vande Mataram Ramachandra Rao chanted Vande Mataram again and again during the Nizam period, and he was beaten and put in jail behind bars. So that is why his name is something else. Ramachandra Rao and his surname would have been something else. But because of his chanting of, or his reciting of Vande Mataram again and again, his name is permanently named as Vande Mataram Ramachandra Rao. So Vande Mataram Ramachandra Rao, a respected Arya Samaj leader from Hyderabad, presided this meeting. So in this meeting again, the discussion about Telangana, discussion about how to solve the issues, how to get Telangana separate state. So all these things were happening as initial blickerings. These are not big things, smaller things, but still it has its role in the next phase too. So after this meeting, the Telangana Janasabha leaders met Rajiv Gandhi, then the Prime Minister, S.B. Chavan, and opposition leader 𝗂𝗽𝗱𝗁, George Fernandez, a socialist leader, and many leaders in Delhi. So meeting them is important because to take the issue to the center. Because who has to grant a statehood? Whatever you do here, it should be reflected. It should be resonated, reverberated in Delhi too. Then only you can get Telangana. So though the moment is not there, these people having a small meeting here, but going to Delhi and representing the issue of Telangana with the national leaders. This is important. In the last phase also we can see Hyderabad or Telangana is the place where the activities are being held. But at times we will go to Delhi, Chalo Delhi or something else, so that we can take this issue to the national politics and make a favorable condition, make an atmosphere, create an atmosphere in parliament to get a separate Telangana. That is why the initial period here also they are talking and they are taking the representation to Delhi and meeting the leaders. And after coming back, within no time, they have dissolved the Telangana Janasabha. They dissolved Telangana Janasabha to pave way for revival of Telangana Praja Samiti, TPS. TPS was the form which came in 1969. TPS has some importance. Though TPS was the organization which was merged into Congress party and agitation died down. TPS as the organization, as an agitationist organization, had a major role. Remember, in Telangana, agitation parties and election parties are different. Even in the last phase, if we see, KCR used to say always that TRS is an agitation party, not a regular political party. So, Udyama party, TRS, this was the saying of KCR. So, like that, agitation is the main goal. It is not the elections or sitting in the assemblies or any constitutional bodies. So, TPS credibility is there in the people as an agitation organization. So, they wanted to revive TPS and TJS, that is Telangana Janasabha, was dissolved. Now talking about Arya Samaj efforts in reviving the issue of Telangana. When there is a lull, there is silence. No one is talking about this. Many political organizations are there, not there. They are not talking about Telangana. Even some organizations are not yet formed, which talked about Telangana in the latter phase in a very big way. At this point of time, Arya Samaj was supporting Telangana. Interestingly, Hyderabad Arya Samaj, or the Arya Samaj leaders of Hyderabad, or the people in Hyderabad who are associated with Arya Samaj, were in support of Telangana. If you recollect, Ramananda Tirtha, a leader, a Swamiji type from Aurangabad region, Marathwada region, 𝗬𝗏𝗧, he was not supporting Telangana. He was in favor of United Andhra Pradesh. But Hyderabad Arya Samaj was completely in support of Telangana. And their body, that is 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 𝗚𝗏𝗧 was asked, means the person here who is initiating the thing, that is Vande Mataram Ramchandra Rao, we talked about just now. Vande Mataram Ramchandra Rao initiated the process, means he was talking with his organization at the national level and asked their 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 𝗚𝗏𝗧 to constitute a team to study the issue of Telangana. So that Arya Samaj central body, they have constituted a team with two people, 𝗹𝗶𝗻𝗁𝗀 and 𝗂𝗽𝗱 𝗏. They toured Telangana and they reported on Telangana. They brought out a small report on Telangana saying that Telangana demand is justified. Telangana people need a separate state. So they have brought out a report, and this report they are making it public. At the same time, they are sending it to the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. They wrote a letter, a 10-page letter to Rajiv Gandhi, and attached this report also saying that consider the creation of Telangana as a separate state. So Arya Samaj thoroughly, without any hesitation, without any conditions or preconditions, supported Telangana in this period. In later period too, because Arya Samaj has completely narrowed its activity or narrowed its scope as a religious or a social reformist sect, not into politics. We don't see much activity of Arya Samaj in the last phase of Telangana movement. But in the initial days, if we recollect the history of Telangana itself, in 1940s, 30s and 40s, under Nizam period, Arya Samaj was not just a religious or reformist organization, it was into political activity too. They were into independence struggle too in Hyderabad state. So they played a political role during this period when the silence is there in Telangana about its demand. So this is about Arya Samaj efforts. Then come to the other intellectual activity. Intellectuals are the people who will make the theories, who will make the contribution, means they will sum up the whole thing and make the effort, their efforts will bring some aspects in consolidated form. They can talk about the injustice in a very, very threadbare manner, in a scientific manner, and put it before the people. That is why I am talking about the intellectual activity, which is very, very important. And of course, because intellectuals are concentrated in the universities, universities are the centers for the intellectual activity and making the ideological base strong for any movement. And Osmania University played that role in all periods of our times. Starting from its inception, Osmania University was a place where dissent is its rule. Dissent, I am saying. Dissent means what? Wherever there is injustice, Osmania University will rise. Vande Mataram movement under Nizam period, or the activities of the people who became the communists were from Osmania University. The Congress leaders, some Congress leaders, communists, or some liberals who were fighting for the causes of the independence movement or anti-Nizam movement. So Osmania University has brought many people into the society who can contribute. And this phase too, we can see Osmania University, there was a forum launched in Osmania University for Telangana. Remember, I am taking you back to, if you are going to Telangana, Osmania University or any educational institution, we have to talk about something. 69 movement was very strong in the all educational institutions. Till 70, all the educational institutions were simmering with the zeal, were simmering with the demand of separate Telangana. But post 70s, there was no demand. But what is happening in this period, 72 onwards, you can see 70 onwards, 70 you can take 70 onwards till 85s or 87 or 80, this middle part of this 90s, 80s. You can see radical left movement or Naxalite movement was a prominent movement in all universities. Students who were for change are going into radical politics or left-wing politics, means Naxalite politics. On one side, it was happening. The whole decade, that is from 70 to 80, we can see growth of left-wing politics or radical politics in universities, and they were into it. But after this, from 80 to 90s, we can see a change in the attitude of the state. There was a heavy repression in the university campuses, and by 87 or 89, we can say, gradual decline of the radical or Naxalite politics or 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 politics in universities is happening. Though they continued, still they were there, but it is not as big as a movement because there was an undeclared repression or ban on radical or Naxalite politics in universities. So because of the repression, the activities were decreasing. But the vacuum, if we see historical junctures, we can see at one point of time, if two liberal or radical ideas are there, if one is subsiding, the vacuum will be filled with the another demand which is also just. I am taking you to some other explanation, like in Telangana society, starting from Shatavahana phase, I am just talking about historical phases so that you can understand things. When Buddhism was strong, Vedic religion also was there. So two religions were strong. One is Buddhism as a popular religion in the society. Vedic religion which is patronized for the sanctity of the rule by the ruling class. And gradually when Buddhism is declining, Jainism occupied this vacuum. Similarly, when left-wing or radical politics or 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 politics are on decline, that vacuum was filled by the progressive elements in the universities. So 1987, this was a period undeclared ban started in universities on Naxalite politics. So they have launched a new organization, that is OU Forum for Telangana. On 7 September 1987, OU Forum for Telangana was launched. Professor Lakshman was the president of this organization, a teacher. He was not professor then, he was a teacher. He was an assistant professor or reader. So Lakshman presided, and 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 𝗚𝗏 was the chief guest. Remember 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 𝗚𝗏 as a giant of Telangana literature. He opposed Nizam. He said two popular sayings are there of 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧. 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 said, "Na Telangana koti ratanala veena." Another important slogan or the denial of Nizam, another popular win. Nizam Razu Taratarala Buju. His works, Rudraveena, Agnidhara, all these things are very, very popular. And he was a lyricist in Telugu film industry too. 𝗬𝗏 𝗬𝗏 was the leader of literary movement from Telangana. He represented the Telangana's literary spirit. He was the last Asthana Kavi of United Andhra Pradesh. When N.T. Ramarao came to power, he abolished this Asthana Kavi post and humiliated 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 by abolishing it. He was opposing all these things. So 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧, a staunch Telanganaite and a struggler, a fighter against the unjust politics of any ruling class. So was the chief guest. So 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧's chief, he was there, and the meeting was organized to discuss the issues of Telangana, what is happening in Telangana. So thus OU Forum for Telangana, which was formed in 1987, continued its efforts at an intellectual level. Meetings in university, bringing out pamphlets, discussions on different sectors, how these sectors are being affected in United Andhra Pradesh. So apart from that, this OU Forum for Telangana organized meetings such as the meetings, national convention or the bigger meetings by inviting the leaders from outside this state to support Telangana. Means bridging the things with Telangana, the outer places, Delhi or national politics, or liberals or socialists, or the people who are supporting Telangana. For example, George Fernandez was a continuous supporter. In the last phase, we could see 𝗬𝗏 𝗚𝗏 coming into all Telangana meetings, 𝗬𝗏 𝗚𝗏, an Arya Samaj leader. Like that, George Fernandez was also a staunch supporter of Telangana movement in many phases, who worked as defense minister under 𝗂𝗶𝗍𝗺 government. So, George Fernandez and many other political leaders of national stature were called in such meetings to make bridge or to link up the movements for smaller states here and outside this state. So, apart from this, they continued many activities, major activities, propaganda and research. So, next organization we should talk is the revival of Telangana Praja Samiti. Already we have discussed when Telangana Janasabha was being dissolved, the aim of dissolution of Telangana Janasabha was to revive Telangana Praja Samiti. Telangana Praja Samiti, whenever we talk about Telangana Praja Samiti, from day one till the end, till his death, we should not forget one name, that is Pratap Kishore, a journalist. Pratap Kishore and others were into the activity again in this period. And in 1987, 6th June, they have started a Padayatra. Pratap Kishore, Sanaullah and some more people, they started Padayatra from Hyderabad to Delhi. But see, this is the phase where there is no much popular support. And automatically, of course, the governments will not support such activities because they are against them. So popular support is also not so big and limited resources. They could not continue the Padayatra because the money which they had was spent by the time they reached Nagpur. So till Nagpur they conducted Padayatra, and from there they went to Delhi by train. So after reaching Delhi, they met Vice President 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧. 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 was the Vice President of India then. Memorandum was given to him. Demands were put before him about the injustice to Telangana. So with this, the same year, within no time, TPS was revived. All the activities which we are talking about, Padayatra, all these things are TPS activities only. So TPS revival, and 𝗵𝗵𝗔𝗧 𝗚𝗃𝗍, who was known as Telangana Gandhi, a popular man from Karimnagar, who was with Telangana movement forever, starting from 52 till his death in the last 2 years back or 3 years back. 𝗵𝗵𝗔𝗚 𝗚𝗃𝗍, popularly known as Telangana Gandhi, was elected as the president of TPS. So TPS got revived. And the next thing is, some more people who were not into TPS or into any mass organization, they were also making efforts. One such name we have to discuss or think about was ex-MLC 𝗬𝗭𝗪 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪. 𝗬𝗭𝗪 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪, a Congress leader, ex-MLC. His efforts were, though he was doing it alone, it also created some impact on the society. He was bringing out pamphlets, publishing booklets and organizing meetings. He organized a big meeting in Karimnagar which was attended by a huge gathering. And books and publications he was making, booklets or pamphlets was another instrument of propaganda. So remember 𝗬𝗭𝗪 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 as a person who continued his propaganda for Telangana, an ex-MLC. And coming to the next point, which is very, very important. Till here, we see all the efforts of organizations or individuals very separately. Like individual aspects are unlinked aspects with one another, small groups. But what is happening at this point of time, very important formation, that is the formation of Telangana Information Trust or Telangana Information Center. Though if I am speaking in a what you call in a praising manner, don't think that it's a huge big organization. This Telangana Information Trust or Telangana Information Center was a small activity. Though it was a small activity, like in philosophy we say, if you see a seed, see a tree in that seed. You may not, all the people cannot see a tree in the seed, but the seed will generate into a big tree. So where is the tree? Hidden in that. Seed is so small. Likewise, these efforts are having its impact, and Telangana Information Trust is one such organization which paved way for polarizing or organizing or galvanizing or bringing the people into the activity. As I said, one person, Padmanabhan, who was bringing flash and phenomenon, was a consistent, ardent activist of Telangana. So, Padmanabhan was in touch with a printing press owner known as Prabhakar, The press name is Natyakala Press. Natyakala, so he was known as Natyakala Prabhakar. So Padmanabham's efforts in inspiring Prabhakar is the major reason for the formation of this one. In 𝗂𝗽𝗺, he had his press known as Natyakala Press. So Padmanabhan used to go to that press to publish his booklets, to get his booklets printed, pamphlets to get it printed. In that interaction, Prabhakar, who was into the PDSU activities, PDSU means Chandapullareddy group, or the activities Naxalite politics. So Prabhakar was inspired with left-wing politics, and later he was into his own printing press and these things. And Prabhakar was inspired by Padmanabham. So as a result, they have founded one organization, that is Telangana Information Center. Again, who are there? All the same people we talked about. I said torchbearers of this phase. That is why same names: Professor Jaishankar, Professor 𝗘𝗍𝗺, Lakshman, another one Professor Harinath, who is becoming active. Harinath was there in the university, and Harinath is another important person who is continuing his activities even in this phase. So all these people were there in the information center, and in 1988, 14 July, they found Telangana Information Trust. These two bodies, one are similar. See, Trust and Information Center have some their technical differences, but the main essence of these two organizations is they have to do propaganda for Telangana. So again, in this trust, the members of this trust were Telangana Prabhakar. You see the name itself is Telangana Prabhakar now. In Telangana, you have some people whose name is completely changed, like Telangana Prabhakar, Telangana Prakash. Presently we see V. Prakash, a person who was into Telangana movement in all phases. Now, majority of his friends are even in TV channels we call him as Telangana Prakash. Likewise, Telangana Prabhakar. See, the activity makes your name, it prefixes the name with your original name. So Telangana Prabhakar, Jaishankar, 𝗘𝗍𝗺, Dr. 𝗂𝗶 Reddy, Harinath were the members of this trust. So what were the activities of this trust? This trust or center is bringing out booklets, and 𝗂𝗺 is the spirit behind this. 𝗂𝗺 was continuously in interaction with all these things in Telangana Information Center. So they have started a magazine known as Ma Telangana Magazine. In 1989, on 13th August, in one Basant talkies in Hyderabad, they organized a meeting and they have launched the paper, and that paper is known as Ma Telangana. Editor was Prabhakar. So Prabhakar brought out a magazine known as Ma Telangana. 𝗂𝗺, Justice Konda Madhav Reddy, Jaishankar, Anandrao, E.V. Padmanabham, Pratap Kishore, all these people attended the meeting. They spoke at length about the injustice and the need to get organized. So, in this background, Ma Telangana magazine was launched. Some issues came in the latter period. Main book we talk about is this trust brought a book known as Perspectives on Telangana. This is important, remember. Telangana Information Trust or Center, you write, it can be asked both ways, that brought out a book known as Perspectives on Telangana. And the same organization campaigned against NTR in Kalvakurti. So campaigning against NTR yielded results. NTR lost. Then come students. TLSO, Telangana Liberation Students Organization. TLSO was formed in 1992 by Manohar Reddy, and some more activists like Jagan Reddy, Krishna Mohan, all these people started this organization. Liberation, because by this time LTTE and Liberation, Telangana Liberation or Elam, all this, liberation is a style name, and Telangana should get liberated. So TLSO was the organization, and they fought against the open quota reserved for Andhras. See, when reservation is talked, 80% seats are reserved for locals. So remaining 20 is for open. Open means even Telangana people should be considered for this 20% seats. But what they were doing, they were reserving this to Andhras. Means it is not Telangana reservation 80, it is 20% reserved for Andhra. So against this they fought. They successfully fought, and they militantly fought. They crossed some limits also whenever such things are happening. But TLSO is regarded as one organization which fought for the rights of the locals in admissions in Osmania. Then there was another issue like 127 Andhra lecturers were getting transferred, not yet transferred. The minister explained this or declared it in the assembly. Immediately, this Manohar Reddy, the leader of TLSFO, sat on hunger strike, and after few days, the government has to yield to the pressure and they withdrew the order. Means they successfully stopped or halted getting the Andhra lecturers transferred to Telangana. So, along with the Telangana students, the Liberation Students Organization, there is another organization known as Telangana Students Front. They also fought many issues together. So, they fought against the discrimination in curriculum also. They proposed that Telangana history and literature should be included in the curriculum. And to accept a big failure but a little success, in the correspondence course, Usmania University, they have included 𝗵𝗏𝗏 𝗪𝗏 𝗔𝗪 into the syllabus. Nothing more than that. So, we have to understand that though the things are not favorable, they are fighting against all these things. And taking up the social issues like fluoride issue. In Nalgonda, it is the water which is a problem. Because of lack of water, you are getting fluorosis. Krishna water is the solution. So, there was a big yatra, anti-fluorosis yatra, and it culminated in Usmania. And TLSO organized that meeting, a big meeting. Don't convert Telangana into Somalia, they shouted. So, they are participating in every activity which is related to Telangana. They met leaders in Delhi. They met George Fernandez, as I discussed already. 𝗹𝗶𝗻𝗁, CPI leader. Shibu Soren, who was the leader of Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, and many BJP leaders. And organized a convention of smaller states in 1993 in Hyderabad, in Usmania University. And Fernandez came, Surendra Mohan, another important socialist leader came, MP, member of parliament came and spoke. And they were fighting culturally too. Like in films also, there was a discrimination. One film, Mondi Mogudu Penki Pellam, a discrimination, means belittling of Telangana culture was the main aspect. They opposed it. So, TLSFO had many activities. Now, we talk about some more activities very important. TPS convention was held 23rd January 1994. And another important aspect is in 1985, where was a big issue post 1985, after NT Ramarao, post 1995, after NT Ramarao was thrown out of power, Chandrababu occupied the throne, then Yanamala Ramakrishnudu, speaker, stopped the MLA 𝗓𝗏𝗏 𝗓𝗏𝗏, saying that you should not use the name Telangana. Telangana name is not constitutional, he said. You see the tragedy. Telangana Regional Council was in the agreement, gentleman agreement. Telangana Regional Committee was there. Telangana Regional Board was there. And now in the assembly itself, they are banning the term Telangana. So, Pranay Bhaskar opposed and he resigned. But later he took back the resignation because Jaishankar, like people, asked him to stop and asked him to continue so that you can raise the voice in assembly too. Later, the major aspect is Deve Gowda's declaration or understanding of policy of smaller states. From the ramparts of Red Fort, Deve Gowda declared that they are not opposing creation of new states like Uttarakhand. So, on 15th August 1996, the boost came into Telangana that there is a little hope that central government can be persuaded for the creation of Telangana. And immediately a meeting was organized by the advocates in Nizamabad. So, now again the momentum has picked up and many other things are happening in this process. And one more thing I have to talk about. Another Telangana Mukti Morcha was formed by Mechineni Kishan Rao, ex-minister under Nadrenla ministry, 1 month minister. Then TPS meeting, a huge gathering. Then lastly, Mallepalli Rajam Trust was organizing a meeting in 1994. Actually, this is an annual affair. Mallepalli Rajam Trust, organized by Mallepalli Lakshmaya, a noted journalist, a senior journalist, in memory of this Rajam, who was killed, a trade unionist, a leader in Singareni. So, every year the meeting will be held. So, in that year, in 1994, the memorial lecture was Telangana lo ēmi jarugutundi. What is happening in Telangana? The current situation. It was given or delivered by Professor Jaishankar. So, all these activities are making some change. So, how to conclude, how to sum up these things? One thing, the first aspect is the silence should be broken. So, breaking the silence is the major aspect against the new phase of attack on Telangana. Post 1973, there is a new phase of attack. So, we have to break the silence, means do propaganda, do activity, though in a lesser scale. But we should continue the activity. This is the first point about this period. Second thing is, the people who are the activists of 1969, the individuals started the group, and it's from individuals to group meetings, then small organizations. You can see a gradual growth of the movement in this entire period. Then, if we can formulate this, when there is no hesitation, propaganda can keep the spirit alive. This is the lesson we have to learn from this period. And intellectual activity, which provided the basis, ideological basis for the movement. I am talking about ideological basis. In the last phase of Telangana movement, we can see we had a strong intellectual or ideological basis. Why we need Telangana? We had 1001 reasons. And why should we unite it? There is no single reason. Only one reason they talk about, no, annadamulla kalisundam. Let's stay together as brothers. Is it a reason? That is not ideological. It's a stupid reason. But Telangana has 1001 reasons to talk about. So this ideological base was created during this period. And it created as a small movement, and that stream was kept alive, and finally this has becoming a wider opinion. So all the activities of this period, intellectual activity or small gatherings or small initiatives, are making a way for the new wave of mass movement, which we will be talking in the next.